tea time. Just gonna ease on into this morning's session. Hi, everybody. How are you doing? I am slowly waking up on this Saturday. I won't say that I necessarily had a very late night last night, although I did. I was up watching Bridgerton. But what I will say is that I think I need a vacation. I don't know if you've ever kind of gotten to that place where you've been really grinding, like you're on the work, you're on it, and then you just get to a point where you realize that, yeah, you're hitting a wall. If you guys have been tuning in the last few weeks, you'd have seen me coming on and just talking about how much I was working, how much I was traveling, how much I was, and I feel like my body is catching up with me now. I honestly think so. Anywho, morning, guys. We're going to have a lovely conversation today. I was actually going to not do a topic, like a very focused topic, and then I realized that the themes that I kept thinking about were pretty much pointing me in a particular direction. And so I decided, let's just give it a name and see how it resonates with you guys. And I don't know if you've been observing what's been happening with P. Diddy. But while I'm not going to spend our entire time talking about that, but it really did remind me of how important it is for us to see these public demonstrations, so to speak, to see them for what they actually are, right? And so that's really what I wanted to get into today. So welcome. Thank you for joining. What are you guys drinking this morning? I'm having my usual English breakfast, and I really need it. I need some caffeine. And while tea don't have as much caffeine as coffee, which I need to double check, but I don't think it has as much caffeine as coffee. This morning, the black tea and that kick with the extra milk, and yeah, definitely needed it. So what are you guys drinking? I'm having English breakfast with oat milk and all kind of excitement. And then we're gonna pull a card and we're gonna get started with our conversation. We are talking about life's ultimate battle, and you may not realize this or think about it in this way, but this is actually what it is. Life's ultimate battle is always you versus you. That's what it is. Life's ultimate battle is you versus you. And that's really what situations like what's happening with P. Diddy remind us about, because we don't pay enough attention. We don't recognize that when we're going through the motions of our day-to-day lives, that ultimately our biggest competitor, our biggest battle, our biggest challenges and experiences, it's really about ourselves. We may think it's about the people and things that we encounter, because that's actually our relationships are the ways that or the vehicles that life uses to teach us. But at the end of the day, what you're learning about is yourself, right? So what that means is that even when people say, no, I'm not fight with nobody, or I'm not watching anybody else, or, and you think you have it down pat, you have life down pat, what is true is that in actuality, you are still in a battle. And that battle is always with yourself, right? So we're going to pick a card. Funny. And the card for today is I live in an untethered state. I'm going to tell you what that means, right? So you see here this woman kind of walking, floating, and it's all great. The affirmation says, I melt into the natural flow of life, trusting that I have all that I need for the ups and downs that will come. I actually think that's a perfect card for today. So the intention for today is I melt into the natural flow of life, trusting that I have all that I need for the ups and downs that will come, because they're going to come. That's actually the whole thing, is that you're not going to be going through life and not experience these ups and downs, right? And so when you think about that, um, it's a really great segue. Good morning, morning, Keish. It's a really great segue into the discussion about you versus you. So here, what's happened now. I was minding my own business yesterday, minding my own business, checking up my IG, my Instagram, my Instagram messages, because you know how it alerts you. And I really haven't been doing great at like posting to my stories this week and stuff, because I've been heads down doing some client work. So I haven't been so great at my stories. So whenever a message pops up, I really do try to make sure that I answer in case somebody from my community is reaching out. So I jump on, and then I'm like seeing all these different things come up in the feed about this young lady, and God be with her. And Essence did a post about when a black woman speaks, you listen to them the first time, and then it had the person's name in the in the caption and everything. And I, Stacey really does live under a rock to some extent, guys. I'm not up with pop culture. I'm just not that person. Really and truly, I'm not the person that is just up with pop culture and know all the business and all the gossip. I usually hear about it after it passed. That's just the truth. And I don't have a problem with it. It's if there's an earthquake and I need to run for my life, I need to know that news. That's kind of more the culture news that I need to know. Anyhow, long story short, I went onto Instagram to check this message, and I'm seeing all this stuff in the feed and in my stories. I see people sharing about this young lady, and so I don't actually know who this young lady is, right? I don't recognize her name. I don't know her. But I'm like, wow, maybe I need to say a prayer or send some energy or something. So I go and I Google the name. When I Google her name, I just see all of this P. Diddy stuff. Breaking news. 1 hour ago, CNN puts out a video about P. Diddy physically abusing this woman, like beating her, like literally like beat up, like, you're watching some gangster show. And so I click on the CNN headline, and I see a part of the video. I don't know if I saw the whole thing, because I was a bit traumatized. I was like, okay, I don't know how people sit and watch this stuff over and over again. But I observed this man at the height of his career, because this was back in 2016. So he's doing really well, and he's abusing this woman, kicking her and stomping on her. And I'm like thinking to myself, okay, this is going to be going in the gossip stream. And I know that there had been a whole heap of gossip about other things that are supposedly a part of his life, right? I really can't give you the details, guys, because honestly, I don't spend a lot of my time deep diving the drama, because it doesn't serve me to deep dive the drama. I mean, I might get caught up in it in a moment, but I'd rather the fake drama, like what happens on Bridgerton, because it's not real. Um, but what occurred for me in that moment when I was watching this video, it was like I was looking back at when I was reading the headlines about Bill Cosby, and all of the people were coming out and talking about him, and then last year Will get himself catch up in this thing with a slap. And I'm just thinking, I hope that when people are observing all this drama and this public demise, right? Because when you have fame to deal with, and you're now at a different level of managing yourself, right? Public downfalls are really a great reminder for us that life is always about you. No matter who you are, no matter what stature you get to. I mean, and when we get caught up in the news of it, and in now the social media. Oh my God, the social media of it. We spend a lot of time thinking about, oh my God, I can't believe they did, and have you heard what happened to him or her? And you just kind of get into this space of judgment. And I'm not really saying that people not going to talk about things. I can get on to some good gossip every once in a blue moon. But the point that I'm trying to make here, guys, is that their public downfall or their demise is not for your entertainment. It's not for your judgment, even though that's gonna happen. Some people are going to be entertained by the triggers that come up in your inner experience watching this stuff. Some people are going to be entertained because them get to call them friend and them sit on the phone and them talk about, yeah, I remember when we used to hang out back in the day. I saw him at such and such club, and yeah, we used to party, but I don't know him really like that. You get on the phone and you start talk with your friend and about the encounters that you may have had with the pop stars or the celebrities, or how maybe you're disappointed and how much you looked up to them as your role model. And so that's, I would say, probably the maybe human way to initially start going about it. But don't spend too much time on that, because that's not really what it's about. Public downfalls like that are really a reminder for you that life's ultimate battle is you versus you. Because whether you're in the public eye or you're in your own private space, you are having your own personal struggles and your own personal experiences. A lot of women are experiencing abuse, whether it's physical or verbal. A lot of men are experiencing abuse, which is another thing. Like, we tend to do a lot of focus on that, but I don't know how many headlines people are putting out when the women are actually, the celebrity women are beating the man, because it happens quite a bit. And I don't think we talk about it enough, but that's a separate tea time. Y'all come back next week for that one. Yeah. So when you look at the public struggles that we see out there, right, it's a great opportunity for us to be reminded about ourselves and about the way that our ego and misjudgment or misguided actions can sometimes get us into some real crap. And ultimately, our biggest battle in life is not with what's going on with everybody else, it's with ourselves. Even when you think about the young woman, P. Diddy's ex, when you think about her and the experience that she was having inside of that situation, her battle was not with Diddy. It wasn't with him. I mean, yes, I know he was beating her and he was drugging her, and all of these things were going on based on her statements that she wrote and now the video, right? But the ultimate battle was with herself. It took her 10 years for herself to rescue herself. And sometimes we're in situations and it is difficult for us to get out because we are struggling. The battle is with that inner self. You're battling with all the things you could potentially lose, or what you're going to have to struggle, or what people are going to think if you tell, or if you give up on one thing to start another, what's going to happen. When you're in relationships where you can literally observe your partner becoming a person that you do not recognize, that is a signal for you to be looking at yourself and what exactly is it that you are creating for your life. Not to say that you're not going to be compassionate, because that's actually what I felt for Diddy. I didn't watch the video and get mad and be like, oh, I can't stand black men and oh, something. No, I never get into that, because clearly there's a whole heap of mess and issues that's going on within that person in order for them to show up that way. When I was in my own challenging situation, right, in the moment of coming out of it, yes, I was really in a lot of rage and hatred towards that male. But at the same time, when years have passed by and I look back and I'm thinking to myself, boy, he must have been really struggling with his inner demons. I see somebody here on Instagram. He failed himself. He was raised by a woman, um, got to great heights, and just behaved so reprehensible. Yeah, he failed himself ultimately. And I know that there are lots of people that may think that, you know, he is an icon or a father figure or a beacon of light. Like even Bill Cosby, I think it's the same thing, right? You have these persons where their persona is so built up in the public space, and people look up to them as role models, right? But what is it? I tell you again, it's the same thing. Even your role models, your mentors, your idols, all of those people, they are flawed. They're human. Just like how you flawed and you need a mentor, you need a coach, and you need a therapist, they need that too. There is no perfection in this world. And what it reminds us again is that life's ultimate battle is you versus you. Everyone on this planet is imperfect. And each of us has our own inner struggles. Some people call it the inner demons. You have your own demons and devils to deal with. And sometimes you know which ones you can manage, and sometimes you know which ones you cannot. And what tends to happen with public personas, right, is that they get to a place where their ego is more in control of their mind. So their mind now becomes their master as opposed to their servant. So all of this work that we do on Tea Time, where we're talking to each other just about how to manage your mindset and how to navigate your thinking and all of that, it's really a matter of being able to identify your true self versus your ego, which we're going to talk about in a second. Right? And what these public downfalls remind us is that your ego can actually drive you towards actions that don't really align with your true self, especially when you're under public scrutiny. And if you think about it, even if you're not a celebrity, right? We have a whole new industry of influencers, and it's because of social media. And I have encountered persons who, they may be on the cusp of becoming, celebrity because they're hovering between influencer and what you end up seeing is just these persons putting on a completely different individual. It's like they're an act. You're not really sure who you're getting. And they're taking pictures, and if the picture not perfect, then take it over 20 times. Now, I will take over a picture, because it's shaky, or, my eye look fatter than I want on this side. I'm going to for, like all different kind of reasons. But I will see people trying to make sure that public image, right? Make sure that public image looks a particular way because of the scrutiny of public attention. And so what ends up happening now is this new light of public persona amplifies the battle, the internal battle, and the constant struggle that you need to maintain between a public image versus staying true to yourself. And you do it even if you're not a celebrity, right? You do it even if you're not a celebrity. You're one way when you're inside, and then all of a sudden you have to put on this personality so that people can like you, and that you can be accepted, and that you can, be the girl or the guy that everybody wants to be around, right? Now imagine P. Diddy in a hallway where it's full of cameras, right? He's in a hallway. I mean, what could have possessed him? At any moment, the elevator could have opened up while he was hovering over the girl, stomping on her at any moment, right? But he was so fueled by whatever rage or egotistical mania that would have taken over, that drove him to display that kind of behavior. And on a smaller scale, it's a similar thing that happens to us when out of nowhere we become these persons that don't have nothing to do with who we truly are, right? Because we're struggling with our internal self and how we look in public. And this is actually one of the things that social media has done negatively. This is why you have so many lawsuits happening with Meta, or Facebook, used to be Facebook, because you have a lot of young people, a lot of kids who are battling with this public persona, being on and doing the look, and then if you're out and talking, and you can't talk to certain people because it's bad for your image. And it's literally the same struggle, guys. It's just that one is at an amplified level with layers of anger and insecurity and loss of self-worth and self-knowledge, because all that is what's going on inside of Diddy. Everybody's thinking, oh, this man is just crazy. I don't know that he's crazy. He just has a lot of misgivings and challenges on the inside because of whatever image he feels he needs to maintain and whatever power or control he feels he needs to secure. So because this young woman in some way represents that power and that security and that control and that approval, that public approval, imagine the feeling of the ego that he gets from being able to see her in that light, to see that, oh, this individual worships the ground I walk on. And now I get to have her with me, like almost like a security blanket when can keep on them arm to make sure, say, that image that he has created in his mind is always available to him. And when she now seeks to escape, he's like, no, I need this so badly. It's an addiction to that public persona. It's him against his image in the public. And in the same way, you may be battling with your image at work, in your relationship, when you go to the bank, right? Like you are battling with your own inner struggle, and you may not have that layer of public persona on top of it. But when you see these public downfalls, it's a great opportunity for you to remember, right, that your life is always about you, no matter what relationship you're in, no matter what your financial status is, no matter what job you have, no matter who's your boss, right, no matter which friend group you're in. Life is always about you. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about the ego, because I think when you look at, the things that we've touched on just now with the public figures like your P. Diddy and your Will Smith and your Bill Cosby, there's a critical aspect that comes into play, which we've been touching on, which is ego. And sometimes I find that ego is misconceived. And it took me a minute to really understand the role of ego in our lives, because it's a part of our being, it's a part of our makeup, right? And sometimes when the pressures of our external environment come into play, that's when ego kicks in. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to explore just a little bit how ego can sometimes lead us astray and push us towards doing things, push us towards actions that don't really align with who we truly are at our core. And what that means is that when we think back to the card for today about living in an untethered state, being untethered means being unattached or detached, right? And when you're in your egotistical state or ego-driven state of mind, you're very attached to a particular way of being, a particular way of thinking that is not necessarily about who you truly are. Okay, so you're no longer going with the ebb and flow. You're pushing and you're forcing and you're trying to make things happen. You're trying to control things, people, circumstances, like we would have seen in the P. Diddy video, right? So the ego itself is quite fascinating, and it's a very interesting aspect of our psychological makeup, right? It's the part of us that gets really concerned with our identity and how we are perceived by the world, right? So that's really what your ego is. Your ego is what tells you about your perception, how people perceive you. And to be honest, you can use your ego to support you moving towards your greatness. You can actually craft the way that your ego is utilized, because it can help you to navigate social situations, right? And it can also move you towards choices that help you to preserve yourself, help you to preserve your image. But it can also drive you in the opposite direction, where it's not connecting that image to your true self, where the outside person is not connected to who you truly are. It's a completely made up individual that you have to actually work at keeping up. And that's the thing. It's like there's this thin line between using your ego to reflect who you truly are in a great light, helping you to move towards your goal and to creating this life that you want, helping you to build and exude confidence, right? That's when ego is working for you. Versus when it's working against you and it is pushing you towards dismissing your true self and inventing somebody completely different that you may see out there and think, okay, yeah, I'm going to be like that, which is not how I see myself, and I have to ignore my real personality and become this other person in order for people to like me and to be accepted, right? And that has become more and more prevalent with social media. So when you think about celebrity who make public statements, not because they believe in that particular thing, but because it more aligns with their brand image, right? Or because they think it's what people want to hear, because I think it's a popular topic, right? And the news does this quite a bit. You will see it all the time where they run stories because they know that it's popular and because they know that they're going to get ratings and people going to click and like, and there's a lot of that that's pervasive right now. And so while doing certain things because you know it's going to increase your likes, right? It's going to make you the trending item for now. It's going to bolster public persona in the short term. It can lead to a lot of internal conflict and stress and overwhelm and burnout and all the things, where literally you can almost feel like you have two completely different personalities. And the inner self, the person that you truly are, literally starts to almost get beat down the way that you would see P. Diddy beating down this girl. It's almost like how it occurred to me in my mind is, look at him beating himself because he fears losing control. And so she is really an image of his true self that he has to beat down in order to maintain control, security, and approval of the image that he has built up. And we do the same thing when it comes to our lives. We beat ourselves down. We may not do it outside, but we do it inside. We can hear ourselves. We can hear almost like your ego is talking to you and saying that you're not good enough, criticizing you, you're not going to make it. You can't start over. You don't deserve this life, right? You can hear it beating up on you. And in some instances, it makes you quiver within yourself. It makes you shy away from who you truly are. And ultimately, you can either develop this other person that you become now because you can't connect to your true self because you spend so much time beating up yourself with ego. Right? So you don't have to be famous to feel these pressures in our own lives, whether you're at work or you're in your social circles or even in your own family settings. You all will face the challenge of balancing your public persona with your true self, right? How often have you said yes to something or to someone when you really want to say no? Did you know that no is a complete sentence? It don't require nothing else. Maybe a full stop, just no, right? But sometimes, you may change your stance on something because it's not the popular choice, not because you necessarily agree with it. Have you been in situations like that? It's literally, guys, it's the same thing. And I know you may think it's extreme, but it's actually what is happening. Because when you look at a public figure, they are experiencing it on a larger scale. But the essence of the struggle is something that many of you can relate to. Each day that we have presents us with a choice, right? Do we let our egos lead? Do we let our egos put forward these facades that we'll have to live into so that we can seek approval or we can get applause? Or do you strive to align your actions with your genuine beliefs and values, even if it means going against the grain, even if it means going against what everybody else is doing? I want you to think about how right now in your life you are denying your true self for the popular or public appearance. And as a result of that, you're not taking responsibility for who you truly are. When you are really navigating your life in a way that you are mastering your ego, you are also mastering your destiny as a result of that, right? And ultimately, what you learn from individuals like a P. Diddy or like a Will Smith or like a Bill Cosby or what other one? I Believe I Can Fly, R. Kelly, right? Um, we are really the masters of our own destiny. When you observe, these are really great examples, not for judgment or entertainment again, but for us to observe the way that in the same way you can build yourself up and create this amazing life for yourself, you yourself can also tear yourself down. One action, one misstep, one kick, one stomp, one slap, one misguided movement, statement at a time. You chip away at the same persona, that same public figure that you've worked so hard to build up. One misstep and you chip away at that. As a matter of fact, you could it's like literally like if you can imagine you, just you, is your true self, and you are building this statue of the person that you are becoming. But the statue is not filled with your true self. It's really a hollow statue of the person you think you should become, not who you truly are, right? And you have built up this grand image of who you feel the world will accept, who you feel your family will accept, who you feel your lover will accept, who you feel your boss or your colleagues or your friends will accept. And you spend all this time, energy, effort. Sometimes, you all have to do some activities before you leave your house and go outside because you have to make sure that you're keeping up this persona because your real self is in the closet. So you build up this persona, you say the things, the words that you think people want to hear. And this statue of yourself, this shell of yourself is out there in the world. And then something happens. You make one little mistake, and you put a crack in the statue. And then little by little, you just start to see the pieces of that imagined self that is not infused with who you truly are. You start to see it fall apart and crumble in front of your eyes. And there is literally nothing you can do about it at that point. So this is an opportunity for us, guys, to be reminded of how important it is for us to amplify who we truly are and to use that amplification of ourselves to be unattached to how other people think we should be. And to use these stories of public figures as a catalyst for your own personal reflection instead of judgment and entertainment. Right? So when you think about some of the different ways that you can manage your ego, I want to kind of spend a little time on that, right? When you think about different ways that you can manage your ego and make sure that you are aligning your actions, your behaviors, right, with your values and being in integrity, right? Knowing that you're not showing up as somebody else and and then you don't have to worry about the words that you're saying, and they're not going to recognize it because it don't sound like who you are, right? You want to make sure that that's what you're doing. You're connecting your actions, aligning your actions and your way of being with your personal values and integrity, because this is where you can live authentically, right? And maintain healthy relationships with yourself, right? First things first is regular self reflection and awareness. Regular, like, even if you just come in here once a week, this is an opportunity for self reflection, because that's all we do. All we do is talk about you. So regular self-reflection and being aware of how you're showing up, right? You want to understand what are the motivations behind your actions. Keep a journal if you like to write. I highly recommend keeping journals. I mean, I love my journals. I constantly go back and reflect on who I was a few years ago. And trust me, God, I have grown so much, guys. I'm so grateful that I have grown, because I was a hot mess. I'm a kind of a hot mess in some areas of my life, but whew, when I tell you I was a hot mess, oh yes, I was a hot mess, right? And so you want to keep this self-reflection going, self-reflection and awareness, that it can help you to see when your ego is starting to play too large a role. Because it's not that it's not going to play a role, it's going to play a role, but it can become too large a role. Reflecting on questions like, was this decision driven by my true self or by my desire for approval from others? Asking yourself that type of question is great for self reflection, and it can also really help you to become aware of when you are doing that. Setting some clear values. Some of us, you'd hear me say just now about values and understanding how your values and your actions align with each other, right? So clearly define for yourself what your core values are. What is a value? What do you stand for? That's what a value is. What qualities do you see in yourself that you like? What qualities do you see in other people that you like? Write these things down and review them regularly, because that can help you to ensure that your actions are consistently aligned with these values. And in that way, you will find that you will remember, you will have recall about your values rather than being swayed by external opinions or temporary emotions. Another thing that you can do that a lot of persons don't like to actually do is seek feedback. Get constructive feedback from trusted friends, trusted family members, or mentors, because this can provide you with an external perspective that's actually a good external perspective, not the superficial one about how things look, right? or how people are going to perceive you. No, but more about behaviors and attitudes and your value set. Because sometimes your ego can blind you to your faults. Yes, egos can blind us. And so the honest feedback helps us in keeping our egos in check and realigning our actions with our true selves. And then the last thing that I want to talk about before I kind of wrap it up is just avoiding comparison, right? Try to actively avoid comparing yourself to others, because social media definitely amplifies the tendency for us to focus on other people. You want to focus on your own journey and your own progress without measuring it against that of other people. This helps us with maintaining self esteem and helping us with being intrinsically or inner motivated, as opposed to deriving our motivation purely from external sources. Okay? So I hope that these few examples, guys, will help you to better manage your ego and to make sure that your actions remain true to your personal values of integrity, and to remind us to utilize situations and circumstances like what happened with P. Diddy as reminders for how we can navigate the space of the social circle and the space of seeking approval from others and the space of feeling like we need to be in control, right? In control of how the world sees us. Okay. So thanks so much for joining Tea Time. I had a really great time with you guys today. And please make sure that you share that we have this every Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. if you're in Jamaica, because right now we're an hour behind. And I hope that you guys have an amazing Saturday and a wonderful week ahead. Take care, everybody. Bye. Bye bye.